Martinook. He'll flick this one out, and a nice play made here by Staal. Staal. It's Bedard back. Staal. Hanging. Shoots. He scores! Oh, the captain on cue! What a shot, picking the upper 90, his 11th of the year, ties this game at 2. There's a missed connection, and then Lardis is hammered by Nikishin just inside the blue line, and then coming after Nikishin.
He's got two guys on him.
The place
he's going to go.
Here we go. Nikishin and Moore, and Nikishin has lowered the boom on Oliver Moore. Oliver Moore now with a chance for Chicago.
He tried to go 5-hole on his breakaway in overtime. You have to think he's not going to do that. This is a mind game, mental warfare between he and Anderson. Do you change it up? Do you go back to that?
19th overall pick in 2023, 0 for 1 this year, wide to the left, cuts across the rings, waits, shoots, scores! Oliver Moore ends this in overtime. Chicago will get a 4-3 win. Carolina gets the point as they will go to 31-15-5 on the season. 18-8-1 at home.
Hi, everyone. It's the Canes Corner Podcast. I'm Adam Gold. Thank you very much for spending some time. An angry group you are after Carolina got a point they might not really have deserved. And they lose in a shootout to the Chicago Blackhawks. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. Trust me. If it is for the exterior of your home, no place like it. The Aluminum Company of North Carolina, they will do you right. One day I'll show you my fantastic giant posts. One day we'll do the podcast from the front porch with the new posts. All right, a lot to get to here on the podcast tonight, and there's we got a late start, obviously, thanks to overtime and a shootout. And I know everybody's mad because Chicago, we should crush Chicago. Look how great we played against Florida, New Jersey, Buffalo. Didn't play great on all 3 of those games. Really only played great in one of them. Showed up late for the Devils game. Freddie kept you in it, and you ended up winning it. Didn't play great against Buffalo. Got outplayed by Buffalo. Brandon Bussey stole it. So the Hurricanes, actually, I think tonight they probably played, well, stands to reason, their 4th best game of this stretch. But I think one is probably about as good as you could hope for based on what I saw tonight. They just weren't very good. They were a little lethargic. They were, and I think it showed up definitely on the power play. We'll talk about that in a minute. That'll be the second item on our in our discussion tonight. And they had some coverage breakdowns, which led to the goals, and ultimately they were, again, I think, fortunate to get a point out of this, even though they could have had 2. It was a one-shot hockey game. Started the third period, 2-2. Carolina was the better team. I think I might have used the term dominated through 2 periods. I don't think they dominated the puck. They dominated the shot attempts. If you just go back and you look at the game through 2 periods, Carolina shot attempts 49-21. Shots on goal 25-12. Scoring chances. This is not grade A's or anything. This is all according to Natural Stat Trick. 32-8. Grade A's 11-3, but it was 2-2. I didn't think Carolina had that many really super threatening chances. They had some, obviously. Had the puck all night, you were going to have some. But 2-2 was about right for me, even though Chicago rarely did much of anything other than take advantage of the mistakes that were presented to them. On the Mikheyev goal, that's a shorthanded goal. We'll get to it. Anderson makes a good initial save, but then can't locate the puck. Boom, that's one. The Rick Lardis goal is poor play by Joel Nystrom. And then I think he and Nikishin kind of got crossed up. And there was no coverage on Lardis for the goal. Donato giving him the puck in tight. It was 2-0. I'm sorry, both goals. Those were the only two. At that point, those were the only two grade A scoring chances that the Blackhawks had. They both went in. Then Connor Murphy scores in the third period. That was, honestly, it looked to me like Jordan Staal was covering Jordan Martinook, and I don't think Jordan had to cover Jordan Martinook there, but I don't really know where the breakdown was, but it was a breakdown because Connor Murphy was all alone in front of Anderson. Forget who got him the puck, but I mean, he had all the time in the world, and ultimately he faked Anderson out, or at least made Anderson commit. And then the goal part was easy for Murphy. That made it 3. And if there was anything good about Carolina tonight, it's the fact that every single time, all 3 times, that the Blackhawks took the lead, Carolina answered almost immediately. Joel Nystrom's first NHL goal came a minute 38 after Mikheyev made it 1-0. Jordan Staal's 11th of the season came all 4:41. That's the long one. 4:41 after Lardis made it 2-1. And then basically the next shift, Logan Stankoven creates the chance with a wraparound attempt 42 seconds after Murphy made it 3. Jackson Blake tied the game at 3, tipping home the Stankoven attempt. Again, that's the only thing I think that my takeaway from this game is that the only thing I really liked was how, when pushed, Carolina responded. Problem is, when you get really late in the third period and you get into overtime and you're not the better team, you don't have time to respond. And the Hurricanes, you go first in the shootout, you have to be able to put the pressure on. Andrei Svechnikov did, but that lead lasted to the next shooter. Connor Bedard equalized, and then we went to the last of the 6th inning, and Oliver Moore. Think about that. I mean, look, just on a human level, if Oliver Moore did what he did for the Hurricanes, I think Canes fans would have gone, man, how great it was it that that he stood up for a teammate. Look, Rick Lardis absorbed a big yet super clean legal check from Nikishin right in front of the Blackhawks bench, and Oliver Moore wanted Nikishin to fight. The funniest part of the whole thing was that Lardis didn't want Oliver Moore to fight and tried to stop it, but it was too late. Gloves were dropped, and then so was Oliver Moore. Was it 3 punches? It was over. And that's fine. I'm glad it was quick. And Nikishin, you could tell Nikishin didn't want to fight. He's like, rolled his eyes. Like, really? Do I have to? And then fought through 3 punches, and then that was that. And then just looked bored and skated to the penalty box. Carolina ended up with a power play out of it, but didn't do anything with it. That'll be a theme of the conversation a little bit later on. So, but Moore, who absorbed that hit, then after losing an edge and being in many ways responsible for the Hurricanes getting a 3-on-1 in overtime, which did not score, but when I think it was Ehlers' shot that was saved by Spencer Knight, created a breakaway for Oliver Moore, and he could not beat Anderson late in the overtime. Ultimately, we go to the shootout, and Moore, who was 0 for 1 on the season in shootouts, is now 1 for 2. So stood up for a teammate, even though he shouldn't have. Got fed by Nikishin. Missed an opportunity to end it in overtime, but then did end it with a game-deciding shootout goal. So, on a human level, props to Oliver Moore. But I get it. We're Hurricanes fans, so we're mad. So, let's start with unnecessary anger. What's wrong? What's going on with the shootout lineup? First of all, it's worth understanding how Rod comes up with a shootout lineup. There are certain guys that are always going to go, barring like just one of those nights. Svechnikov and Jarvis are always going to go. And I think Jackson Blake is probably in the same category of guys who are always going to go. And I will just refer to my notebook here. And here those three players. Seth Jarvis is now 2 out of 6 this year in shootouts. Jackson Blake is now 2 out of 5 in shootouts. And Svechnikov is 2 out of 7. Andre has been in all 7 Hurricanes shootouts. How come they used K'Andre Miller? I ain't going to lie. I thought the same thing. He was 1 for 1 for his life in shootouts. Just want to confirm that. That's what I thought I heard on the broadcast. Yes, Miller, career shootouts, 1 for 1. It was a game-deciding goal. He went 4th. Right? Do I have that right? Yes. K'Andre Miller went 4th. I went, oh, that's interesting. K'Andre Miller's coming over the boards. Then Logan Stankoven, who had his shootout attempt saved. And Stankoven is now in his career 0 for 2. And then Mark Jankowski went. And Jankowski, who, by the way, actually has done fairly well on breakaways for Carolina since being acquired via trade. Is now 0 for 3 in his career again in shootouts. So those are the players that went. Blake, Svechnikov, and Jarvis, again, almost always going to be part of it. But, and they all went. Those were the first 3 shooters. So before I continue as to why no Aho, why no Ehlers or Taylor Hall, right? It is, and I'm not expecting people to know this. I know it because I've watched practice. But when the Hurricanes practice, as they go from whatever drill to the next drill, whatever they're working on, when there is a natural break in the practice agenda, they do a shootout contest. Now, it's not you go, you go, you go, you go. Rod calls a player out, and he goes. If the guy scores, the goalies do a lap. If the guy doesn't score, the players do a lap. It's that simple. And that's, in a lot of ways, how Rod determines who goes. There's a little skin in the game if you don't score. So while it's not game pressure, it is, in some ways, pressure. And I haven't seen every practice this year. I actually don't get to practices now because, the radio show starts at noon every day. And when they practice, they usually practice at 11. Like, they'll practice, I'm sure, at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Actually, I probably could tell you when they'll practice as I look for it. Let's see. The Hurricanes will practice at noon tomorrow. I can't go to that practice. They'll practice at noon, and then they'll fly to Ottawa. But there are probably, I don't know, 5 shootout attempts during the course of a practice. So, and they keep track of these things, and the more successful players are on the list to guys who shoot. For all you or I know, Miller has done well in these drills. Jankowski has as well. Again, I don't know. But it is amazing to me that legitimately one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League is like ripped because he won't put Sebastian Aho in a shootout. Aho is 0 for 2 this year or 0 for 1 this year, and he's 6 for 27 all time. And we watch Aho in breakaways, and I would imagine most of you who pay attention are in some ways surprised when he scores on a breakaway, right? So now you're just mad to be mad because you don't think Aho's going to score when he has a breakaway. And if you've watched the shootouts, again, 6 for 27. And he doesn't have, he's either 0 for 1 or 0 for 2 this year. Sebastian Aho is 0 for 2 this year. Nikolai Ehlers, great offensive player, and he is now, after 0 for 1 this year, 0 for 7 in his career in shootouts. So, look, I get being mad, but it's always thought out. And a lot of times the tie-breaking part of this is, did the guy have a good game? And honestly, there weren't too many people to choose from among players who had a good game tonight. And it always makes me laugh when we like complain about line combinations or stuff like this, when, man, they didn't lose this game because Rod Brindamore sent out Keandre Miller in a shootout. That ain't why they lost the game. Lost the game because they deserved to lose the game. They weren't the better team. And the other goalie played better than Carolina's goalie. And again, I don't think Frederik Andersen was necessarily bad tonight, but he didn't come up with the save that you needed. So, I mean, that's really why Carolina lost. Well, no, that isn't why Carolina lost. We'll get to that in just a second. But, man, complaining about the shootout lineup, I'm not going to lie. I was surprised to see Keandre Miller. I wasn't that surprised to see Mark Jankowski, to be honest. But I was surprised to see Keandre Miller. I remember shootouts when Rod Brindamore would send out Jacob Slavin or Dougie Hamilton or Brent Burns. I know these are offensive players. In theory, so is Keandre Miller. Although I would be very happy to never see Keandre Miller on the power play again, because I just don't think he's all that good on the power play.
Back down low, Ehlers up high. Miller, his pass knocked away by Mikheyev. He had to track for the puck, but still a 2-on-1 developing. Mikheyev shot right on. Rebound, he scores. Andersen made the save, but Ilya Mikheyev stuck with it and pounded the backhand home, and it's 1-0 Chicago on a shorthanded goal.
As I was saying, that was a Miller pass that was deflected out of the zone. A very telegraphed pass, a well-telegraphed pass, not a poorly telegraphed pass, a well-telegraphed pass, which Carolina did a lot of tonight on the power play. And it went the other way, and Mikheyev never passed the puck, didn't have to. Miller was back. The initial save by Andersen was made, but he couldn't locate the rebound, so Mikheyev just, basically backhanded it home, and that was that. 1-0 Carolina. That was the only goal scored on 5 Hurricanes power plays. In fact, there were only 5 shots on 5 Hurricanes power plays. There were shot attempts. Carolina had some halfway decent looks. Let's see if, first power play, I thought Carolina had, I think on is either the first one or the second one, where Carolina won the faceoff. Andrei Svechnikov comes out of the left corner, gets right to the front of the net. It was a good chance, and the puck just kind of fluttered over the net. But Carolina really wasn't threatening. They weren't moving the puck fast enough. Again, I've said this before. Keandre Miller, not a power play guy. Just isn't. And when Shane Gostisbehere isn't in the lineup, Rod Brindamore does not want to go to 5 forwards, not on a 5-on-4. He wants to have a defenseman out there. I mean, personally, I think Jacob Slavin would be a better option than Keandre Miller. But Miller is maybe a little bit better offensive player. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly kind of within the margin of error, but I just don't think Miller moves the puck well enough. He telegraphed that pass. I forget who he was trying to get it to. Might have been Aho. Aho did that once during the course of the game. Svechnikov did it 2 or 3 times. Ehlers did it. Carolina just didn't move the puck well in the power play tonight. They paid the price. They went 0 for 5 on the man advantage, and they gave up a shorthanded goal. That's where they lost the game tonight. Carolina didn't lose the game because Keandre Miller was in the shootout lineup. They lost the game because the power play was drunk tonight. So it's a simple explanation for 4-3 in a shootout to the Blackhawks. That's really the game in a nutshell. Now, before people lose their minds about, well, the Hurricanes' power play is this, why does the power play always suck? For 7 weeks, for the last 7 weeks, their power play has been operating at 31% efficiency. 7 weeks. That's not 4 games. That's 7 weeks. They're averaging 4 games a week, basically. We're talking about almost 30 games. Like more than half of the games that have been played. The Hurricanes' power play has been good. It wasn't tonight. And that's too bad because it cost them the game tonight. Special teams cost Carolina 2 points. If Carolina's better on the power play, 2 things happen. You don't have to score. If you're better on the power play, you probably do. But if you're at least crisp, moving the puck around, and Spencer Knight standing on his head, at least you create the momentum you need. Unfortunately, when your power play is chasing the puck back the other way, giving up a goal, it sucks the life and the energy out of the team. And that's what, in large part, is why Carolina didn't have much going for it, apart from the shifts following Chicago goals when they get mad. So, you want to blame why Carolina didn't win? Look at the top power play unit. Second power play unit was slightly better, but not a ton better. But Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Ehlers when Staal gets off the ice, Miller. That unit was no good tonight. Top line wasn't great tonight. So, and if the top line isn't good, and it probably stands to reason the power play won't be good either. And that's really what happened tonight. It wasn't the shootout lineup. It wasn't the decision to start Frederik Andersen. Like, this is not a big deal. But I get it. At the sight of Freddie, fans are like, I can't believe we're doing this. Why are we starting Andersen? Bussy's on 3 days rest. All right, time for a lesson. If Brandon Bussy plays Monday at 1:30, a game that ends at 4, and then he plays the next night, he's on 0 days rest. Even if the game is more than 24 hours after the first game ends. You play Monday and you play Tuesday, you are on 0 days rest. So somebody trying to argue that Brandon Bussy's on 3 days rest is silly. And when it's pointed out that, no, it's 2, and the argument is, well, it was 4:30, it was 1:30 game, and this is 7, so it's more than 72 hours. Then if you play a back-to-back, then you're on 1 day rest? No. You're on 0 days rest. You played the next day. The rest would be something separating the 2 games. Not going any further than that. If you paid attention to what Rod Brindamore does with his goalies, almost always it's a rotation. And Brandon Bussy has started games, consecutive games for Carolina. Hasn't started a back-to-back, but he has started consecutive games. And that has happened often lately. Bussy will start on Saturday in Ottawa. And I promise you, he will likely start on Thursday here against Utah. Brandon Bussi is the number one goalie. Freddie Andersen is going to play almost every other game. There will be doubling up for Bussi, but it wasn't going to happen today. Yeah, there were 2 days off, and he could have played Bussi today and Andersen in Ottawa on Saturday. But what's the difference? So, theoretically, this should have been the easier game. It isn't. It wasn't. And it turns out, maybe it should have been, but it wasn't. So, why are we even mad about things like that? So, that's, to me, shootout lineup. Get out of here with it. It was the power play that lost them the game tonight. But I do think that there were some cool things.
There's a missed connection, and then Lardis is hammered by Nikishin just inside the blue line, and then coming after Nikishin.
He's got two guys on him.
The place
he's going to go.
Here we go. Nikishin and Moore, and Nikishin has lowered the boom on Oliver Moore. 3 straight rights.
He just buried it. He didn't.
As the Canes win the draw now, working it back out. A shot, the score! There's your other level. And welcome to the National. Joel Nystrom's first NHL goal.
Joel Nystrom, first goal. Good for him. The rest of the game today wasn't great for him. But the goal was cool, and the goal got Carolina even. Alexander Nikishin, for the most part, I thought was very good tonight. And I think he has been getting better and better and better. And I like the fact that I think we've seen, I don't know what the hits numbers are in relation to the first 20 or so games. I think Nikishin has been more physical of late. Carolina was super physical in the game tonight.
What a hit by Svechnikov, Mike.
As he cleared Nazar off of the puck, and Andersen will keep this one moving. That is, but now it's a quick up, and Walker, he's in, trying to get around Bertuzzi. Good stick by Bertuzzi. Then Bertuzzi is run over by Aho. And then Walker delivers a hit on Vlasic. He almost sent him to Rome.
Look, I thought Carolina played a physical game tonight. I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't have played as physical. Maybe they would have been better if they just played their normal. I'm not going to say passive game, but they're not a team that throws their bodies around all game long. But you need to be physical. You need to finish your checks, and I don't think anything that we saw tonight was gratuitous. Hey, let's credit Carolina and Physicality for the first goal. Will Carrier wasn't necessarily a big hit, but physical behind the net, creates the turnover. Kokoniemi picks up the puck, finds Joel Nystrom for the first goal for Carolina. That equalized a minute 38 after Mikheyev scored shorthanded. Hey, that's Carolina being physical and creating opportunities, which you want. But Carolina, they threw their weight around. Real quick about Nikishin, I may have already said this. I probably did. He really didn't want the fight. He seemed like, come on, really? I don't want to do this. But ultimately, if the other guy's dropping gloves and he's going to start trying to throw hands at you, might as well beat him to the punch, so to speak. And Oliver Moore, I don't think he regrets what he did. Maybe he'll have a shiner tomorrow. He definitely wore Nikishin's right hand. Ultimately, Carolina was second best tonight, lost the game. Got what they deserved. On the bright side, Carolina won a bunch of faceoffs again. Faceoff circle is getting better. I don't think Chicago is all that good in the faceoff circle, but I thought Carolina, at least that's one area where they have been getting better and better and better. Also, in terms of shorthanded, with Jacob Slavin in the lineup, I believe now Carolina's 27 out of 30. That's 90%. So that's the area where Carolina must improve the most. They can't be you're not going to be successful in the postseason if you're allowing a bunch of power play goals. You're going to have to be between 85 and 90% in the postseason, unless you are just pumping in a ton of goals. You're going to have to be clean, shorthanded. And I know it was only one chance, I think, tonight. But Carolina was. And with Slavin in the lineup, they are. Without Slavin in the lineup, they're not good. But that's the benefit of Jacob Slavin, who I think played a very good game tonight. He and Chatfield, I love that partnership. Love it. And they were both a +2 for what that's worth. Slavin had a part in the Staal goal. Yeah, I think he got an assist on the Staal goal. He got to the puck and chipped it out. I liked Chatfield again tonight. I think that pairing is really, really good. And it gives Carolina, and it's going to take Slavin, I think, even a few more games, and maybe the Olympics. You know, they're not going to play a ton of games in the Olympics, but he'll get some game time over there. And as long as he doesn't re-injure himself, I think you'll see post-Olympics the best of Jacob Slavin. And I think Carolina will have as good a shutdown pair as they have had since Slavin and Pesce played together. Quick aside. If Seth Jones isn't going to play for the Olympics, USA, why wouldn't you call Brett Pesce? You brought in, Jackson Lacomb's a dynamite young player. I don't think he's going to play at the Olympics. And at least if you have Pesce, and by the way, now you've got, of your 8 defensemen, I think you've only got 2 righties. What is that? At least this way, if you wanted, Mike Sullivan could have Slavin and Pesce get the band back together and kill penalties and shut down McDavid or McKinnon or both. Anyway, I'm not going to get mad about Team USA player selections, but Pesce would have been a great choice. Anyway, but I couldn't be more biased than I am for Pesce. Anyway, that'll do it for us. Canes fall. No sense being mad. Carolina got a point they probably didn't deserve tonight. Canes fall in a shootout 4-3 to the Blackhawks. They'll be back at it on Saturday in Ottawa. Hopefully, we will all have power to be able to watch it and for me to be able to do a Canes Corner podcast after it. That's what we're hoping for. Podcastable conditions and no ice. Except, in the rink in Ottawa. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. You should check them out. aluminumcompany.com. Talk to everybody Saturday after the Canes beat the Senators here on the Canes Corner podcast.